guys, it's Miss Checka, and I barely told anybody that I was doing this today, so oops, but I'm jumping in. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this every day, but I'm doing it today. So yesterday was about space and astronauts, a little bit of Spanish, but today I thought we would read a book because there's like a lot of not fun things about social distancing and having to be in your house and like hang out with your parents who are the worst. But one of the best things is that this is the perfect time to curl up with a really good book. Now, if you are like me, where you read the book is really important. So let's see if I can show you. At my house, do you see that blue chair there? Yeah, it's like a little nest and it's so soft and I get in my blue chair. So this book I have for us to just take a look at today. Now, this book is called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, but usually we call it Alice in Wonderland. And it says here that it's by a guy named Lewis Carroll, which is not true. Not his real name, not his real name. So before I read you part of this book, I'm going to tell you some facts about this book. So first of all, this guy, Lewis Carroll, that wasn't his name at all. This is written by a man named Charles Dodgson. And Charles Dodgson, in addition to, not being named Lewis Carroll, that's a name that he made up to publish this book. He also was not a writer. He was not a writer and he wasn't a children's book writer. Because usually when you read a book that's written for kids or who's written for teenagers, the country of England, it's actually older than the Aztec Empire. And at Oxford University, he was a mathematician and his specialty was logic. Logic. Now we'll talk a little bit more about logic and kind of the godfather of logic is this Greek guy named Aristotle. But at any rate, he was a math professor and he never married, never had any kids. So he used to hang out with the family of one of the other professors in his department. And that guy, his last name was Liddell. And Mr. Liddell and his wife had a bunch of kids. And so Charles Dodgson would hang out with the family and, in the city of Oxford, they have a river and they have special canoes that go in the river that are called punts. They're like flat bottom canoes. And so he'd go punting and go picnicking with this family. And in order to entertain the kids, just like I'm entertaining you now, he would make up stories and then put the kids into the stories. And one of the kids is named Alice. So that's how this book started out, is a bunch of stories that he would tell Alice Liddell to entertain her. Now, another thing that I want to tell you is, have you ever read a fairy tale, or has your parent read a fairy tale to you? Because some of them are wild. So if you are a kid right now in 2020, when your parents read you a story, it's because they want you to be entertained. They want you to be happy. They want you to, be quiet, maybe. Let's be truthful. Sometimes parents, their motives cannot be trusted. But in the 1800s, if you were a little kid and your mom and dad were like, here, read this book, it was not so you could be entertained. It was to scare you into following rules. So think about some of the old stories that you have been told about Little Red Riding Hood, about The Boy Who Cried Wolf, all of these stories, if you think about it, they have lessons in them, because it used to be in the 1800s that when people told stories or wrote books or had poems for little kids, it was to tell them lessons. And so the lessons would be like, you better always listen to your family, or you better always follow directions, or you better not wander off by yourself, and then it would be like Goldilocks and Three Bears, Little Red Riding Hood, and all these stories in which, like, if the kid in the story does not follow the rules, like Hansel and Gretel, like Little Red Riding Hood, who just goes wandering off when she's not supposed to be wandering off, then dire, terrible things will happen to you. Like you'll end up in a bear's house, or like a wolf will eat your grandma, all these terrible things. So those are the stories that little kids would read in the 1800s that are written by children's book authors. Lewis Carroll writes a story, and it has a little kid. Little kid does every single thing that you are not supposed to do. One is why this book was wildly popular with kids. It's actually like one of the most successful children's books of all time because like kids read it and were like, I'm not learning anything. This is awesome. I hate to learn stuff. I want to break all the rules. So let's get started. I'm going to read you like a chapter or two. Okay, so here we have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And you can see here's little Alice. Here's the queen going like this. And, you know, here we go. Very first chapter has a very famous picture of this rabbit. And there's a couple of unusual things about this rabbit. Namely, he is wearing an outfit. He's, you know, pretty dressed up, pretty well-to-do rabbit there. He's got a little watch. I don't know what this is. Is that his umbrella? He's prepared. All right. Okay. So chapter 1, down the rabbit hole. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. So she's bored. I mean, raise your hand if you've been bored this week. I mean, I actually haven't, but whatever. Once or twice are conversations. So she was considering in her own mind, as well as she could, for the hot day made her very sleepy and stupid, whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. So I don't know how many of y'all have rabbits in your backyard, like wild rabbits, but it's pretty exciting, you know, when you're not expecting one and it comes by. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think it so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, oh dear, I shall be too late. When she thought it over afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this, but at the time, it all seemed quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket and looked at it and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind she'd never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it, and burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it and was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was going to get out again. So here's Alice chasing after this rabbit, and the rabbit is late to go somewhere. And does she stop to, and like a lot of us, she kind of acts first, doesn't think about it, she just does it. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way and then dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself in burrows. They live in burrows underground. So a rabbit hole, you know, safe place to hide from, you know, other animals that might want to catch you if you're a rabbit. So down she goes into this rabbit hole, but it's not just any old rabbit hole. It is so big that she can fit into it. And she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her and to wonder what was going to happen next. First, she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she looked at the sides of the well and noticed that they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. This is good. That means the rabbit's a reader. I like him. But it was too dark to see anything. And then she looked at the sides of the well and noticed that they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. And here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labeled orange, killing somebody underneath. So she managed to put in one of the cupboards as she fell past it. So Alice going down this rabbit hole, and she's like a little snacky, a little hungry, tries to go for some orange marmalade. Not there. Well, thought Alice to herself, after such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling, she said aloud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For you see, Alice had never learned several things of this sort in her lesson from the schoolroom, and though this was not a very good opportunity for showing off her knowledge, as there was no one to listen to her, still was good practice to say it over. Oh, yes, that's about the right distance. But then I wonder what latitude or longitude I've got to. Alice had not the slightest idea what latitude was or longitude either, but she thought that they were nice, grand words to say. Presently, she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it'll seem to come out among all the people that walk with, ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? And she tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy curtsying as you're falling through the air. Do you think you can manage it? And what an ignorant little girl she'll think me for asking. No, it'll never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice began talking again. Dinah will miss me very much tonight, I should think. Dinah was the cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat, and that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here Alice began to get rather sleepy and went on saying to herself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes do bats eat cats? For you see that she couldn't answer either question. It didn't much matter which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off and had just begun to dream that she was walking hand in hand with Dinah and was saying to her very earnestly, now, Dinah, tell the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Okay, we are going to stop there. And if you ran across this guy, where'd he go? Rabbit, and he is a conejo blanco because blanco is white. What other things do you need to know if you are speaking in Spanish? All right, so here is our conejo blanco, and then we can use our astronaut Spanish from yesterday. We can say, hola, ¿cómo estás? To our rabbit, and we say, you know, bien or sí. And then he has his reloj, and then what he's holding there, that umbrella, it's a paraguas. Paraguas. So there is your Alice in Wonderland Spanish for today. And questions, story requests, anything, give me a little comment, give me a little wave. All right. Bye, guys. Be good. Eat your fruits and vegetables, read a book, etc.